We talk about it every day. Prices are going up. We're talking about gas prices. We're talking about with the war in Iran. Doesn't it give Trump a huge boost of confidence when we have these Arizona primaries last night and all his candidates sail through?
Yeah, but it's false confidence.
Tell us why.
It's great for him and his ego that the people he wants to win are winning in primaries. But Arizona, this has been sort of Lucy and the football situation in Arizona the last couple of election cycles, where Arizona Republicans will nominate someone who is absolutely off the walls, and they will get slammed in the general election. We saw it with Kari Lake, who now is struggling to even become the ambassador to Jamaica under Trump. We have seen it time and time again, where this very purple state, the primary candidates go deep red, and the actual results in November do not look good for the Republicans. So I think that Trump has managed to get a small victory out of this, but I don't see Andy Biggs doing particularly well on the hustings to try and convince Arizonans who are struggling to. There was recently a story out of Arizona about the cuts in food stamps and the cuts in SNAP out there and how that's affecting people, how families are unable to afford groceries. Is Andy Biggs really going to be focusing on that while campaigning? It feels very unlikely.
Secretary, the president says the American people do not want high gas prices, but it's worth it. The war is worth it if it stops Iran from truly becoming a nuclear threat. Do you think the American people buy that?
No, because they know we had a deal with Iran that was supported by the international community, including Russia and China, and the whole UN Security Council, and we walked away from it for nothing. And then instead of in that deal, Iran got about $1.6 billion of their own money back, and now they're getting under this deal, which I don't know if it's a deal since we've been 11 straight days of strikes. That ceasefire deal was over $300 billion, right? So, no, the American people aren't buying what they're selling in Washington, D.C. these days, no doubt.
Charlie, what do you make of what we saw in Arizona last night?
Well, as Hayes points out, winning a primary is not the same as winning a general election. And when you go with, yet again, going with an extreme MAGA election denier in a state that has rejected them over and over and over again, it tells you a little bit about the political dynamic. But I hope that Democrats also remember that winning primaries is not the same as winning elections. So right now we have the Republicans going as hard right as they can in Arizona, and I think putting those seats in, those elections in great jeopardy. I hope that Democrats understand that dynamic as well in places like Wisconsin and Michigan. Winning primaries do not win general elections. In fact, winning primaries with unelectable candidates is actually perhaps not the most savvy strategy. So unfortunately, and I know people hate to hear, the both sides thing, but both parties have a primary problem right now when it comes to the November election.
Trump's strategy, though, David, has little to do with shaking hands, kissing babies, and talking affordability. For him, it's about pushing the SAVE Act and sort of gutting election security, right? We know that the Trump administration gutted the agency that stops election interference.
Yes, Laura Barone Lopez, our colleague, and I wrote a story about this. The president is pushing lies, and I'm going to go back to basic competence. The tariffs did not create manufacturing jobs. It decreased manufacturing jobs. It increased costs. We can't handle a lettuce outbreak in terms of what the average voter is going to look for in this election. Food programs have been cut by the big, beautiful bill. And so this document release, and I've looked at all this very, very carefully, it is completely false. There is no evidence. And John Solomon, the primary conspiracy theorist, who now is acting as a de facto sort of intelligence chief for our government, this journalist, he himself admitted to Vaughn Hilliard there is no evidence of a single vote tally being changed anywhere in this country in 2020 by China, any other foreign country, anyone here. So I just think all of these false promises and all of these really bad policies are going to come home to roost in November.
Well, voter fraud became a hot topic just yesterday. New Jersey reported, New Jersey's governor, Mikey Sherrill, reported herself that a computer error led to 400 non-citizens voting when the previous governor was in office, and the same mistake caused roughly 6,600 non-citizens to be registered. We know that the president and others are obviously going to be all over this. What are your concerns? I mean, mistakes happen. This could not come at a worse time.
That's right. And we're all in support of free and fair elections. And that's why you don't want to make the barrier of your constitutional right to vote harder by showing your passport. Like, okay, like if there's a thought of there's some type of fraud, ask for ID. But, to make everyone do it, it's just, come on. You want to make it easier.
But isn't the situation in New Jersey going to muddy the waters in terms of no matter how much information Mikey Sherrill puts out? This just sows the seeds for an argument that Trump has been making about rampant voter fraud across the country.
Not really, because this was an error. Nothing in the Save America Act, any of the versions of it, nothing in any of the versions of the bills would have prevented this computer error from happening. Nothing would have forced them to disclose any sooner what has happened in New Jersey, which was quickly corrected, happened years ago. And I think the math was that it was something like 0.002% of the votes cast in the 2024 election that were that were cast by non-citizens, something like that. So it's really just the smallest drop in the ocean of the total vote count in New Jersey, let alone in the country. So I think that the timing feels bad amidst the Save America Act push that Trump has been doing, but it was a problem that was fixed by the states, which is their constitutional responsibility.
And this is what I appreciate. Mikey Sherrill, Naval Academy graduate, governor of New Jersey, she says, listen, it wasn't necessarily under my watch, but we uncovered this where we don't care if it's Democrat or Republican fraud. We see there's a mistake, we're going to fix it. Is the timing great, Stephanie? No. But you know what? You want someone like Mikey Sherrill, a leader character, running a state like New Jersey, and getting to the bottom when there's problems that come up.
Yeah. Charlie, weigh in on this.
Well, look, I agree with everything here. But the problem is, in the current environment, can math counter the vibes? Because this is alarming. One of the things that Donald Trump is trying to do is to undermine confidence in our elections, right? Foreign interference, their main goal is to get Americans not to have confidence in our democracy. No foreign interference has been as effective as Donald Trump in undermining that confidence. So he is going to weaponize this. Of course, he's going to weaponize this. It is a drop in the bucket in terms of the overall number of votes cast. It is a technical error. Hayes is right. The SAVE Act would not have prevented this particular computer error. But in the current environment where Donald Trump is again and again pushing conspiracy theories, fantasies, false stories, when it's very, very clear that he intends to undermine public confidence in the election and then possibly use that as a pretext to interfere in the election. So this has been, the alarm bells have, been going for a very, very long time. The timing is bad. This will be exploited by bad faith actors big time, and we all know that.
I'm going to bet you $10. Okay, the president is headed to Georgia today. He's there to talk about Trump accounts, which have a whole lot of support. He's there to talk about affordability in the country. This is Georgia. We're at the epicenter of find me those votes. Do you really think he's not going to bring up this situation in New Jersey?
I refuse to give you $10 because that's a terrible bet. Of course he's going to bring that up. Of course there is no way to put Trump in Georgia for him to not bring it up. He's physically incapable, I feel like, at this point, of going to Georgia and saying anything except, you people took the election from me. I am furious and you owe me for this.
So I guess this is my point. You may be right of like, New Jersey handled this right. Mikey Sherrill came out. Right. Here's a math. Doesn't have that much. All of that may be right, but it's not going to change the fuel this just gave the president to supercharge his messages.
Yeah, but I think that in a way, that's a good thing, because when Trump is off message, that means he's not talking about the things that matters. Yes, it is dangerous. Yes, it is bad for this country that he's undermining the faith in elections. But it's getting to the point where people are tuning him out. It's getting to the point where it is the only note that he's able to sing, and it is hurting people's ears at this point to have that monotone screeching at all times.
So what's so funny? We talk about it here. My parents voted for Donald Trump. When voter fraud is the last thing on earth they want to hear about.
Exactly.
She was so happy that a storm hit last week during his primetime address, so she couldn't get it on. Sorry, it's not on. It's not available tonight, Stephanie.